Good afternoon, everybody. It's Valerie Ling here, coming to you live, actually from the Centre for Effective Living today at Gordon. I just wanted to touch base with our community, remembering that it's probably for some of you a change in your child's life, a major transition, perhaps that they're going off into high school and they've just started, or they may be changing school. And I thought I would just offer a little bit of a piece of insight that comes from my work with cross-cultural adjustments. Where did this come from? Because I've been thinking a lot about just how emotionally draining and exhausting it is to watch our children enter new stages, whether it's a new school or transitioning into high school. And I personally went to about 9 schools in my life, and just reflecting on some of the things probably that I've been saying to some young people that I've been talking to about adjusting to high school and some parents, and I thought I might offer this to you. All right, I'm just going to see if anybody here is actually going to hop on with me, because I would like to be able to answer any questions if they are with me. All right. So, did you know that there are actually stages to cultural adjustment? There are actually stages that we go through. Now, why would I talk about culture when I come to talking about kids going off to high school for the first time or changing schools? Well, because it's a really different culture, isn't it? You go from one environment that all your assumptions and what you're familiar with, and the relationships and even the physical pathways, they're all familiar and they all make sense. And then you're actually going to another place which doesn't make any sense at all. You can't even find your way to the toilets. You don't know where you're meant to sit. There are new relationships that you have to navigate, new teachers, new politics, everything is new. And when you're watching as a parent, you can feel totally helpless to help your child. But what I wanted to say is that adjustments to any culture, even when they're like a microculture or a subculture like high school, probably comes with some stages. And if you know the stages, then that might actually help you to feel a little bit more relaxed in being able to watch your child go through the transition. So what are the stages? Well, the first one is probably a honeymoon stage, or the tourist phase. Hi, Jen, thanks for joining me. Let me know what you're doing and where you're up to these days. And so the first stage is the tourist stage. Now, some children, when they're changing school, they might skip this stage altogether because they're not really feeling like they're in the euphoric state of being a tourist. So the tourist stage is when you go into it, or even ideologically, they may have had this thought that high school was going to be this thing, right? Like this amazing place they were going to step into, and conjured all kinds of images for themselves. But basically, it is a rather superficial phase that we go through. And we might suddenly see everything as being bright and shiny, or have these fanciful ideas about what it might be. Now, the flip of that is, of course, that often isn't reality. But remember when you're first going to a country for the first time and everything seems like new and fanciful? It's a proper stage, though. We don't want to hurry anybody through that, but we want to acknowledge that stage does happen. Now, the thing about high school is, while kids may be in a hurry to move through and become natives, this is what I call wanting to be a native, wanting to feel like you immediately belong, wanting to feel like this is like you've been here forever. Yeah, so help our kids to actually see that it's okay. That stage may not come for a while, because sometimes kids may actually then have an expectation of their teachers or the people that they're interacting with, and often of themselves, that may not be realistic for them. And so being able to say, hey, it's okay. If you don't feel like you belong, if you don't feel like it's familiar, that's normal, right? One thing that can help them is to actually relabel this phase and saying, you know what, it's actually okay to be a bit of a tourist right now. It's all right to feel like it's strange and it's weird. Put on a bit of an adventure hat or a tourist hat, with the camera and I was going to say sunnies, but you might go to a very cold country as a tourist. I don't know. Back to the point. Where they can actually make maps, for example. That could be a helpful thing. Ask them, why don't we sit down and make a map of the school? Help me to figure out where all the different pathways and what does it look like. You might even try to make a bit of a social map, getting to know the natives per se. Where all these different, where the year 11s hang out, where the year 12s hang out, where the year 7s hang out. Okay. And so helping our kids to actually stay in that tourist phase a little bit with an attitude of curiosity and adventure may actually help with the next few stages. And for some of you, maybe that's where you're at. Stage 2 is culture shock. And this is where you might start to feel really irritated. Why doesn't it work this way? Why is it so different? And you might start to also feel homesick or school sick or friend sick. Again, we can help our kids to actually feel like this is a normal stage when you're actually adapting to a new situation, to a new culture. It's all right to feel this way. And it's all right to help them to talk about it when they come home and not feel as parents like we just made the worst choice of school for our kids because they're irritated and annoyed with where they're at and with the people they're around. It's all right. It's just part of the process, part of the journey. Now, the third stage is eventually does come when the kids actually get to a sense of finding the internal logic within the new culture, figuring out that that PE teacher is always going to say that to you or anybody else that walks into the classroom. Or that particular group of kids, they're going to be the ones that are interested in this, and that group of kids are interested in that. Eventually, you start to figure out the internal logic, the internal maps, and the actual physical maps of the school, but that does take time. And finally, a sense of belonging and adapting does essentially come. So the reasons why I wanted to unroll this or share with you that there are stages to cultural adaptation is for us as parents, we can feel really helpless, and we too want them to get to stage 4. But you know what? They probably have to go through all of those stages, including the irritation, anxiety, I don't like being here phase as well. Now, as long as nothing serious is going on, like, there's no bullying, there are not significant learning difficulties that where a child has been not very well matched, or they're sort of not in a learning environment that is going to be helpful for them, we can afford to actually be kind to ourselves and be patient with our kids as they go through this cultural adaptation. So what can you do at home? Well, of course, listen, and remind yourself that you aren't a bad parent because they're feeling these things and you haven't made some poor choices. Have some routines that stay the same at home. This is one of the most helpful things I can say to you. Let them know what happens at 3:30, at 5:30, or 6 o'clock. Keep them as regular as possible. Launch them with a great breakfast, right? Welcome them with something that they can look forward to at home. Stick to the regular bedtimes as well as best as you can, because this is a time when they're going to need their sleep. And encourage lots of activity and exercise so that they can get some of these, some of the stuff that's going through their system out physically as well. So I will leave you with that, and hope to hear your thoughts if you have any. Bye.